Why isn't that chat showing up in my thing anymore?
It's in the middle. I actually left the old chat window open. I'm curious if it's gonna be revived.
You know what? The funny thing is, I was using a different version of OBS Studio, and then they discontinued that. Now it's a plugin, but the chat used to you could log in, and then in my OBS window I could see the chat, which was really cool. And I don't want to. I just haven't spent the time to figure out how to make it work. Anyway. We're back. It's good to see you guys.
Hello.
We were here last week for a show. We're here this week for a show.
I can't believe it is Thursday again.
Already. Yep.
I'm just doing my usual dance where I post to Twitter and Facebook and.
Well, that's nice.
The club.
That's real nice. I love it. It makes me so happy.
Got my new headphones here. I'm going to have to get used to these. They're cordless, so now I can go to the bathroom and take you guys with me.
Oh, shit. Do it now. This sounds great.
You know, it's funny. I can't use cordless because they're those supposed to be wireless and not Bluetooth. They have a dongle.
Dongle.
Hold on. Yep, there's a dongle.
Yep.
Oh, my God. That's so adolescent of you.
Okay. All right.
Oh, my gosh. I can't believe I did that.
Got to keep it light.
Yeah. Got to keep it heavy.
I'm very disappointed in myself.
I spelled vengeance correctly. I'm proud of myself.
Yeah.
It's not something that comes up too often.
It's weird because, you want to put the EA at the front.
I think.
But you don't. You put it at the back.
It really should be pronounced vengeance.
Vengeance.
Yes. It's a plate best served cold.
Please, blah, blah, blah.
Yes,
We
thank
blah,
you.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
I have 800 tabs open on my other browser. I'm going to close them all.
That's part of my pre-show dance. Turn off all the tabs.
Oh,
so we got Metropolis. Metropolis, what's up?
Eh.
We're getting some new chatters tonight.
I don't know.
Oh, man, Metropolis. That's a good story. He joined a younger colleague in the Teams chat and greeted her with, "What's up?" And then she said, "Oh, my goodness, you're old."
And then she left. Well, it's if you tune into this channel, you got to know we're a bunch of 50-year-old dudes.
Right. But I am trying to go ahead, Brian.
I think I'm the youngest here.
Yeah,
you are.
Yeah,
I'm
you
the
are
oldest,
the youngest,
so.
For sure.
I look like the oldest.
That's true. Sorry about that.
It's not my fault. I don't have...
Yeah. Ain't nobody lying. Ain't nobody arguing with you there. I'm gonna start talking about red. I'm gonna start never. Anyway, hey, you guys, we're on Twitch.
We are.
And here's how you know we're old. Oh my God, we're on Twitch.
It says 7 people, but it only shows 1.
Right.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. No, there's a bunch of people in the chat.
Yeah, I see 8-bit burn.
Yeah.
Or is it 8-it burn? I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna say bit burn with an 8.
Andy, Ice Cold Joe, Mr. Peabody, Metropolis, me.
Yeah, Andy's in the chat. That's good to see you guys. Ice Cold Joel. Ice Cold Joe, not Ice Cold Joel.
It burns.
Yeah. Cool. But Ice Cold, I cannot say it. I can't say it. Ice Cold Joe. He's been on the show. He's been listening in the chat for decades. We haven't done the show for a decade. What's that?
You drinking?
It's a Pac-Man drink.
I got my 32-ounce of water.
Nice.
It has a apple flavored Mio type thing. I actually think that it's made by the Jelly Belly company. 0 calories, and then 2 shots of apple 99 or whatever it is.
Nice.
Oh jeez.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yes,
So I started working on the 6400 chassis, by the way.
Excellent. I'll take one.
I need a 5515 so bad I can taste it.
Yeah.
55. What's a 5515?
I don't know.
That's a 25-inch that goes in a Yeah, 720.
That's what she said.
Oh, need a medium res 25.
Right.
Aren't there others?
I watched a bunch of
There-
your TikTok videos, Mark.
There are. Did I mention in the last few shows that I've been buying what I thought were medium res 25 inches, and they were always standard? Like, I kept buying them. Like, people were like, "Oh yeah, it's medium res, I swear." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" So it's like, fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 3 times,
Fool
but
me
not
once, fool
not
me
4 times.
again.com.
I was pretty proud of myself today. I did not write the guy about the Ferrari 3-screen game that's for sale down in Wisconsin.
I was one of those. Does it still have the CRTs in it?
Yeah, and they work.
So nice.
I don't know. It's terrible. It's ugly. It's horrible.
It
It's
takes
horrible.
up so much space unless you put it on its side. Then maybe, I don't know. Mount it to the wall or something.
It would look terrible next to my 3-screen Strike Fighter.
So here's the deal about season 8 of the show.
What? Oh, the show, right?
Yeah, if we were to have a season 8, I would want 2 people to join the cast of this show. They'd have to be like, one would have to be social media guy.
So, Mark, this is Adam telling us we're fired. Go ahead.
I'm social media guy. What the heck?
Also, I'm going to need to fire 2 people and hire 2 new people for talent.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, there's no way I'm freaking firing Mark. He does the show notes every week. What
I
am I,
know.
stupid?
What do? I show up. I did recruit my ex arch enemy to be a guest tonight.
Okay, that's kind of
Okay,
badass,
good.
right? Like,
I asked about this before the show started. And I have no idea who he is or what's going on or anything. So, can we talk about it a little bit right now? Or
We could.
Well, so Lemony Vengeance is who's on the
Yes.
show tonight.
He's our guest tonight. Yeah.
He's a persona non grata. He's been around the arcade circuit for some time. He's probably about 10 years younger than us.
a little closer to me, you old fogies.
Well, 10 years younger than us, I said, not you.
Yeah, so Lemony works with a competitive company to Paradise in the fighting game community.
oh,
And so there was a lot of conflict and bad blood between me and this company. And we can talk about some of the details of how that ended, but
a mysterious fire. Wait, no.
no, he and I were very much at each other's throats for about a year and a half. I mean, just jabs back and forth online, a lot of online fighting. And now we're actually pretty good friends, hang out at events. He is actually the liaison sometimes between me and this other company if stuff comes up. He kind of is the sensible middleman now, but he's a great guy, very smart. He does, for those of you who don't know him, he's embedded into candy cabs and does some really amazing work in adapters and harnesses and all sorts of other things to let them do stuff that they don't normally do. And I'll let him talk more about it, but he's a really bright guy and really a good person who has taken a lot of lemons in life and made them into lemonade. I should have a big glass of lemonade here and just drink
That's
it.
pretty
the whole
funny.
show.
Like,
But yeah. So, anyways, we hated each other for about a year and a half. It was pretty funny. So he's like a journalist being embedded inside of a candy. Billy Seven, did you make it to Louisville? So Billy Seven is on a road trip today, guys.
yeah, he said he was gonna. Well, and he said he's gonna listen on the road. So this might be him listening on the road.
Don't swerve.
Well, so he is taking 3 of the ice cold beers down to the Louisville show. And
That's
so
pretty cool.
it's he left this morning about 8 a.m. Called me about noon, added to the plate, about 2, added to the plate of things I had to deal with today because the trailer fender was coming off. It was rubbing on the tire. The back tires were bald. And I was like, go for it.
Yeah.
There's 2 axles. You're good.
So 2102
man.
Cooper in the chat now, joined by Ben Blake. Hey, welcome to the show. And Mike Page has jumped in. Good to see you, Mr. Peabody. Welcome. Metropolis, you were already here. But Billy Seven, Andy, you guys are great. You guys are great. Okay, so now we have lots of stuff to talk about. We have lots of stuff to do.
Things have changed in 7 days.
Oh my gosh.
You know what's funny? I'm looking forward to what you've been working on, and it's not like I've been restoring any games right now, but I do have some fun things to talk about.
All right.
What about you, Mark? You got some fun things to talk about?
I mean, I have a handful, but I like to keep it short and sweet.
Yeah. Well, the interview is going to start a little bit later tonight, so we got plenty of time. How about we hit the button?
Yep. You're in charge of that.
All right, let's do that now.
Live from KOYR Studios.
This is Todd Rogers, the king of video games, and you're listening to Arcade Radio.
What's new?
Did you know that Chuck E. Cheese was born inside Atari?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's new? God, I'm sick of that question.
No matter what I say, it draws controversy.
Get down.
Videomania has gripped the universe. So what's the score?
Roger, 0J, and I feel fine. Is there anybody actually going to listen to this?
That never gets old. It just doesn't. Thanks for listening in from the Arcadosphere. This is Season 7, Episode 9 of the Arcade Radio Podcast. Today is Thursday, March 9th, 2023, and the time is now approximately 7:25 p.m. Central, or 7:28. I don't know. I'm your host, Every Atom, Everywhere, All at Once. I'm joined by my co-host, Mark Short Round Shields, and last and least, Paradise Guide to Job and Provider, part-time Jack Nicholson impersonator. It's Brian Thurston Howell Armitage. Here's Johnny. Ladies and gentlemen, gamers and non-gamers, tonight, the Arcade Radio Podcast takes you on another wild ride through the world of gaming and beyond, and we have a very special treat for you tonight. A guest who needs no introduction, the one and only Lemony Vengeance arcade hero. He's going to be on about 8:15, 8:30 tonight. So stick with us. That's what's coming up. Yeah.
Mark's muted again.
I think it's weird. He's like he's here, but he's not. It's so odd.
I had to cough.
Okay. Turn your head and cough. Yeah. So, Brian, what you been working on?
Yeah.
I never go first. I think about it. No, I'm just kidding. So, did I tell you guys I got a Chasm?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You tell I don't know if you told the
What kind of Chasm?
the chatters.
The cosmic one.
The cosmic kind.
Nice.
Yes. So I don't know what else to get now. I've literally hit that point where it's like, that was the game that I'm like, I'm never gonna splurge for this. It came up. There was a reasonable deal, not a good deal. And looking at the basement, it just fit the vector row. And so I bought a Cosmic Chasm last week. Should be showing up next week, which is super exciting. It has a G0803 in it. Should have the 105. I'm probably going to convert it to a 6400. But been working on the 6400 board sets. We got the deflection adjustment board done and the deflection board done. Working on the high voltage section now. And what else have I been working on? And we've been playing with Prop Cycle. So Prop Cycle is disassembled in the back. The projection screen is having a few issues. And so I am messing around with it and poking Tom while he's working on it, is I guess a good way of putting it. And we were lucky enough that Smokey Joe's came in and it just worked. which
Nice.
was awesome. So that's my list.
Dang.
Mark,
Who do you
what
want?
been
Who do you
working
want? Oh, it's me. Okay, fine. It's kind of a boring set of things I'm doing. I did
Well,
have. Yeah. What?
Did you get the second thing on that list? I mean, come on.
Yes, I did. My Street Fighter 2 replicate showed up. It came from Anchorage, Alaska. Oh, the guy did not. What?
The one before that.
Right. Oh, that one. Well, hold
Wait,
on.
finish the replicate.
I was looking down. Right. It was not wrapped enough, so it has like a couple little, battle damage dents on its corners. But I used a black marker, and it's fine. But yes, the second thing on my list is Quantum, which I did not get. Yes, I tried for a bro price, and I got shot down. I mean, I'll be honest. It's not actually a bad price. It's being sold for $7,500. I said, "How about 5,000, bro?" And he's like, "We're not related." No. He was like, "How about 6,000?" And then I'm like, "How about 5,000 and a pat on the back and a hearty hi ho?" And then he came down where it was 5,500 and my 6-player X-Men PCB. Which I really love that PCB, but he has a game with no board, which very well because he borrowed one from me one year.
Yep.
So that idea is actually starting to sound pretty good.
Well, if he hasn't sold it yet, I'm sure he'd be willing to.
Yeah, I mean, and I looked at recent prices. That's very comparable to market. So.
Yeah. Well, and as Brian pointed out, if it's all matching serial numbers, it might be a good deal.
Is it all original stuff?
It's a 6100. He does have an ampliphone, but I feel like if I'm not going to pay the original sticker price, I'm probably not going to get the ampliphone. But
I will say that is a game that you probably want an amp in.
Interesting.
It's just the refresh rate, the appearance. It's I would do it.
Okay. I've never I don't own an ampliphone in anything, so I have to definitely look into that. Okay. Well then what else? There's not much else here going on. I worked on a Kicks control panel I had. Who cares? Whatever. What are you working on, Adam?
Well, nothing really arcade related. Well, that's not true. So my basement has been a wreck for a long time, and I finally unearthed the bar.
Oh.
And last week I needed to watch Picard, so I unearthed my TV. So all that stuff.
Adam has a very low bar.
No, it's a standard height bar.
I mean, it's in the basement, so
yeah, it's standard
can't get
height.
much lower.
Yep. So it looks great. It's very easy to navigate around now, and when I have a party, I'll invite you, Mark.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So, you got to set the bar somewhere.
You do.
So anyway, it's looking good. Things are getting cleaned up down there. Pretty soon the arcade will be traversable again. I don't know if I mentioned that I've been working on my Star Wars with the Vector Labs kit, and there was a problem with the kit. I sent it back to him, and he fixed it. And then he sent it to me, and I got it last week. Was it last week, Brian?
It was last week.
Have you stuck it in yet?
I sure did, and I put in the prom board backwards.
Oh, that's the problem that you did originally, right?
No, the problem originally was that there was an actual defect with the kit.
Oh man!
So I sent it to him. He fixed it. He sent it back, and then I put in the prom board backwards, like a John Jacobson Jingleheimer Schmidt. So anyway, the thing burned out like instantaneously.
Oh man!
Magic smoke came out. It was pretty sad. Anyway, I humbly emailed him and said I screwed up. That was the title of my email. And I said, I put in the prom board backwards. Can you just sell me a prom board? And he said, yeah, I can sell you a prom board for $35, or you can send the other one back and I'll fix it for free.
What?
Yeah.
That's a lot of travel for this little board.
Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
It's a jet setter.
So get this. I send it to him. I sent it to him like stat. And then I said, just, when you send it back, let me know what the charge is for sending it back, and I'll pay the return postage, because that's the least I could do, because I bleeped up, right? So I get an email back from him 2 days ago with a tracking number. He's like, enjoy.
Did you ask him what was wrong?
No. I knew it was wrong. Both chips were burned to a crisp.
Sure.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. You should have seen there were 2 brown spots on the prom board. It was bad. So anyway, I'm sure he just replaced those chips and it was fine. He might have had actually replaced there's a couple of service mount diodes and whatever else on there, resistors.
Oh, I just thought of something I'm also doing. I don't know if you're interested. Do you want to hear about this for a second?
Sure.
It's war games related.
Go ahead.
So there's a guy in England called the High Nibble, and he makes IMSI 8080 replica boards. And it's an identical front facade of the IMSI 8080 as seen in war games. And it does all of the same things that the real full-size machine does, but it's only like this. It's like this thick, because it's, we're in the future. So anyway, I'm buying that from him, and you get to build it and stuff like that. So that'll be kind of fun. What do you think?
I like that.
That's cool.
Kind of makes me want to finish my Whopper Edition ColecoVision. By the way, Opcode just sent an email. Okay, so does anyone... Mark, you have a ColecoVision, right?
Yeah, it's right here.
Some guy sent it to you, right?
Yeah, thanks a lot for your hand-me-down ColecoVision. Although the only thing I can get to right now is the Atari adapter, but that's cool.
Yeah, so have you bought one of his SPGs, like his super game adapters or whatever?
Not yet. I should.
They're $100. Get this. He just announced today, actually.
Oh man.
That there's going to be in August Donkey Kong Arcade Super Game Club exclusive. So it has all the stages, all the intermissions.
What?
Yeah. So he's ported Donkey Kong as arcade perfect as you can to the ColecoVision, but you have to have his game unit to play it.
Oh man, that sounds cool.
The expansion unit. The expansion unit is only $100. It's actually kind of cool. And he's already released some ROMs that you can play that require that expansion unit. Pac-Man DX. Now I already have his Pac-Man collection from years ago, and it's fantastic. It has Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, and with a little key combination, you can unlock Pac-Man Plus. Well, get this. He has an enhanced version of the Pac-Man collection. It includes Pac-Man, the Japanese and US versions, plus Miss Pac-Man, and for the first time, you also get Crazy Otto on this thing.
What?
Yeah, it's going to be a cartridge. It's going to have a full box release with manual. Opcode, OPCODE. If you don't know who Opcode is, look it up. He's a super nice guy. Anyway, the next one he's going to release is Mooncrest / Eagle. It's an arcade perfect port of Mooncresta and Eagle. And then in September, Ladybug's coming out, also an arcade perfect port for the ColecoVision, which I think is interesting because like they say arcade perfect, but you're playing on a ColecoVision, so it's not freaking perfect.
I mean, do I have to hold my head to the side to play it? Like,
well, exactly. Like they're all ported for a 4x3 television too, so they're not. I mean, perfect is that's a pretty generous adjective, right?
Yeah.
Also in October, November, Time Pilot, DK Jr., and then December, Popeye and Phoenix. So like if you are a fan, and then he does all these repro boxes. So if you're a ColecoVision person and you want to collect all these boxes, they're doing like picture perfect reproductions of the original Coleco boxes because they're usually hashed hell. So You can buy like Smurf and Victory and Slither and Star Wars and Popeye and Frogger and Mr. To-Do and all these boxes. But anyway, if you haven't got the SGM, it's the Super Game Module, plugs into the front port of the ColecoVision. There was actually an expansion designed for the ColecoVision at one point, and then of course ColecoVision didn't make enough money, so they stopped making it. So years and years and years and years ago, probably more than a decade ago, Opcode started work on the SGM, and he's selling it for $99. So you put $50 down, you pay the rest when it ships, and then all these games are coming out this year, and they're all arcade ports. So you got to check it out.
Nice.
Anyhow, that's not what I'm working on. I worked on the basement.
And moving on to the news segment.
Yeah. We'll move on.
Oh,
So, the other thing is, what I've been working on is a friend of mine, Rod Weidman, who is sort of well known in the local Minnesota EM pinball restoration circles. And he does work for high profile customers in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to name any names, but one of his clients' initials is Brian Setzer. So, but like that type of client that has a home in Minnesota that needs his EM pinball machine worked on, whatever else, right? Anyway, Rod did an interview for I'm just going to say it's a thrift magazine publication. And the author of that article asked if he knew anyone that would be interested in doing an interview for arcade stuff for this magazine. And so now I'm working with this author for this. I'll tell you about the publication when it's ready to go. But right now I'm being interviewed about my collection and my experiences, which is kind of fun. And it's not maybe as elaborate as both yours and Brian's, say, Mark, but like I think I've got an interesting story to tell. I've probably told it mostly on this show, but it's been very interesting because it's bringing up all these memories that I didn't have. She's asking questions that I didn't think of, so like I'm actually thinking I might use some of these.
Oh, nice.
On our interviews, because it's pretty cool. Yeah, so I've been working on that. And then I wanted to bring up that Nintendo has an eShop, and I have a Switch. And so I've been buying a few games lately. And one of the things that came up recently was for sale. Was Sega Ages. Do you guys know about Sega Ages? So for years, Sega has had this division, and God rest her soul, I think we might have mentioned she passed away, but one of their lead engineers for the Sega Ages project passed away last year, I think. Anyhow, they usually port Sega arcade classics to game systems, and they've been doing it for years. So whether it's the Sega Genesis, I think that's when Sega Ages first started, or game, all these different Sega platforms.
But not Naomi.
Dreamcast. No, I doubt Naomi, because Naomi was more for like fighting game stuff, right?
I mean, it was in arcade cabinets.
Yeah, and it was Dreamcast hardware essentially, right? Yep. I think we're going to talk about that later. But anyhow, there's a Sega Ages division, and they port these games, and they're doing them to Switch. Well, normally they're about $8 a piece or $9 a piece for like Sega Outrun. But the cool thing is when you buy Sega Outrun, it's not just Outrun. They've converted it to widescreen. They have all these different features that are included in the game. Although the most egregious thing about Sega Ages Outrun for the Switch is they don't use the rumble feature, which is stupid. When you go off the road, you should rumble, right? It should rattle your controller. They didn't do it. Anyway, that was the first game I bought for the thing, and I paid $8 or whatever. And I thought that's stupid. I paid $8 for a single arcade game, but it's actually kind of fun. And there's some actual features in there that are not that you can't do on just having a port of the game in MAME or whatever. So, anyway, all the Sega Ages stuff went on sale for $3 a piece last week. So I bought like Sega Ages Shinobi, Sega Ages Virtual Racing. Do you remember G-Lock? Okay.
Yep.
So, Brian, G-Lock. Tell us about G-Lock.
Well, the last one I played was a G-Lock 3. It was a cockpit fighting game, like flying.
Yeah. So it's basically Afterburner's successor, and it was one of the games that they put in the Sega 360. Do you remember that thing?
I did not play a 360.
So that was in 1990. They came out with that it was like the start. Yeah, but it was like Sega had the environmental cabinet for Afterburner. It would swing back, but then they had this. I can't remember what the actual name of it is. You guys maybe Google it, but
the R360.
The R360, right? That thing you actually had to sign a waiver, and there was an attendant at that game. And so if you want, and it was only in limited places across the U.S. You got into the machine, and it would do like full 360-degree turns. So you would do a loop inside the game. You would have to strap in like an 8-point harness, right? Yeah. So anyway, I've got a friend who got to fly one in Denver years and years ago. And they released G-Lock for $3, and it has vibration built into it. It's actually super fun. I was amazed at how fun the game is. So I don't know if there's still $3, but you guys check it out. Sega Ages released almost all of their stuff, for the $3 each, and at that price, it's worth it. So Shinobi, G-Lock, Virtual Racing. What else? There was Space Harrier, Thunder Force AC, Lightning Force, Fantasy Zone. So a lot of shmups. Those were, anyway, really cool stuff.
Do you know? I didn't know this. I just looked it up. Do you know what the LOC stand for?
I don't.
Loss of consciousness.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I think they were just playing on the G-force pulled.
That's
so
interesting.
G-force loss of consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, like, they use a lot of the same sounds that were in Afterburner. So, like, fire. That the guy that's yelling when you lock in.
Up.
Yeah.
Oh. Terrain.
I don't think either one of those samples was in there, but anyway, I've been playing a lot of that lately. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of, I guess, as probably good enough what I've been working on, right?
Yeah.
Do go on.
Very comprehensive.
I don't usually blab on, but we have time.
We do have time tonight.
So
do I get to go?
What's that?
Is it my turn?
Well, sure. Here we,
do some products.
All right, let's.
I always felt that the true stars at Atari was engineering.
Oh, you're an inventor.
Yes, I am.
What have you invented?
A lot of things.
Like?
Like a lot of things. Like things that you've heard of.
Like?
Well, things that you will have heard of, okay? Patents are pending.
Arcade Gadgets with Brian McLeod.
Welcome to the Gadget segment. I have a cough. Anyways, have you guys seen the so it's gonna be a little interactive this time since we have some time. 3 announcements for new pinballs. You got Foo Fighters from Stern, you've got Godfather from Jersey Jack, and today Chicago announced, I think this is their first title that isn't a remake. They announced Pulp Fiction.
Oh, I like that.
So I think Foo Fighters is going to be huge. It's a band that's still selling out stadiums. I think you're going to get a lot of engagement from people who don't normally play pinballs. And the game is actually So a lot of the traditional music games are, hey, you're playing this game and the music's playing and there's a concert and you whatever play. This is actually a battle against aliens. And with Foo Fighters music. So it's not just a like, here's a music pin, listen to their music and play pinball. It actually has a story. It's got a plot. I mean, I was really impressed. Like looking at it, we'll see how it plays, but there's a lot of new toys and features coming out on that. And it really looks like it should be an interesting game to play. You guys haven't seen the trailer for it, go check it out. They've introduced a couple of interesting ball locks, magnets, other things on the field.
And this is for which game?
This is Stern Foo Fighters.
Okay. Oh yeah, I did hear about that.
Yep.
I
go ahead.
I was just gonna say the Pulp Fiction one interests me, and wouldn't it be cool if like when they shot the ball, it just went, like.
It could be. I mean, so it's funny because Brian Proc just said, isn't the most amazing and promising pin from Stern and Ages made by a YouTuber? It is, but he's also a well-ranked pinball player. So Stern has turned to Elwin and Jack Danger to design pinballs, both of whom are very well-known pinball players, highly ranked pinball players. This is Jack Danger's. It's his first one where he's lead designer. I don't know the full list of his accolades for the other ones that he was assistant or did some of the home versions, but he's coming out of the gate swinging with this one. It looks impressive. Cool. So you should check it out. I think it's going to be exciting because I do think you're going to get a lot of people who come out and play this game because there's just huge fans of Foo Fighters. Whether you like them or don't like them, they're still selling out stadiums. And they're actually selling them out. They're not roping off the top section and selling them out. But they're going to get a lot of attention. The other one that was shown was Godfather, which actually looks like it could be, you guys are going to hate me for this, one of the first Jersey Jack pins. It actually looks like a good pinball. I mean, there are some other ones that were good pinballs, but
so you
a lot of toys.
You don't like Jersey Jack stuff? Or
I'm not. So I think they do amazing toys and they do like some really neat features, but they just don't have a lot of flow in the game. Like it's kind of like, this looks amazing, but it doesn't feel like a great pinball. The Wizard of Oz I do think was good, but the other ones, they just, I don't know, not crazy about them. This one looks like it's got a lot better flow. It's got a lot better movement around the field. Steve Ritchie has moved over there, so maybe some of his influence from the Black Knights and other things is coming over, where the patterns and the combos were really a key part of the game. So, but no, Jersey Jack pins are not my favorite. And finally, the Pulp Fiction, Chicago Gaming announced it, made a little trailer, put some music on it, showed absolutely nothing. So that's it.
Oh.
Yeah. And it is, so that is true. Metropolis said Pulp Fiction is designed by Mark Ritchie, Steve's brother. It is. But they have divulged zero information on it.
Huh.
So the other things in product news, we have these in. See if you guys can see these. Kind of cool. So we are going to be starting to produce some official Atari products, and Atari has agreed that we should be putting serial numbers on stuff. So we had custom holographic Atari stickers made for the official products. The first 3 products that'll be coming out I've talked about, but I have one here I'll show you. So we have Major Havoc.
Oh.
So what's interesting about this, you kind of can't see it there. Maybe you can. So this is a matte green. The yellow text or yellow silkscreen on top. We have taken all the boards that we've done. I don't know if I can see it here on the Major Havoc. Let me pull up this guy. Yeah, so this is, I believe this one is Black Widow. Gravatar, obviously the same thing. But one of the things that we've done is there have been some improvements made to the boards, maintaining the original stuff but getting rid of the jumpers.
Sure.
And so they've all been revved up. So if the original board was a Rev B, this is a Rev C, which is kind of fun.
Do we lose Brian?
He's just taking a breath, maybe.
I think we lost him.
Oh man. Rev C
His
though.
camera was like going in and out too, and I wasn't really sure about that. So, here comes my Minnesotan accent. So,
You're gonna get your bag.
really, that's the
I married a Minnesotan. So
that's the word you want to make fun of Minnesotans with his bag.
Only with my wife. So
that's weird. Yeah, no, I get a little Fargo once in a while because I have a family that's all up for. So I wonder how long it'll take him to figure out that he's not connected. Probably
Something's
about
happening.
now.
Oh, now, okay.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
We can hear you, but your picture's gone.
So it's funny because I could hear you and I could see you through the entire thing.
That's
oh
fine.
no, you were frozen.
Yeah. Anyhow, so you read the versions of the boards. That's cool.
So they're all revved up, and then the Major Havoc actually has the speech section finished. So
Excellent.
if you're going to put the Promised End on there, you can do that on this board. So far, we have Major Havoc, Gravatar, Black Widow, Warlords, Lunar Lander, and soon to come is Food Fight. Should be out shortly.
Excellent.
So these will be sold either as a straight just board blank like you see there, or they can be ordered with a printing of the marquee or other artwork on the board, as well as kind of the board history.
Oh, I kind of like that.
So
aren't you working on some prom boards too?
Yeah, but I didn't announce. I can talk about those.
All right.
So I sat down the other night and figured out how to do the ADS 123s, 126s, 129s, 131s, and 137 prom boards with with a Winbond 512 chip with the 45 nanosecond delay. So matching the original prom kind of speed, because we're doing a lot more repairs now. The proms are getting expensive. People have done these before. I took some previous ideas, added to the kind of lineup of boards. So should be seeing those coming in the next week or two, testing them out, and then hopefully getting them out the door.
That's cool.
It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The other thing that I want to do is the AVG chips were just going out on all our vector boards, and I'm getting tired of spending $50 for an AVG chip.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
so I might be doing those just so I can put my own in there.
Sweet. Are we doing
That's
some
it for-
news now?
Very
I think
nice.
that's all I got for gadgets today. I don't see any other toys around here.
All right. Over to you, Adam.
The arcade, arcades, pinball, industry alumni, arcade openings, selecting, celebrities, world record holders, operators, coin-out, conventions, the arcade news.
We interrupt the ventilated alarm.
And now, the arcade news with Adam Stevens.
Yeah. I'm going to jump the rails on news again because, that's just what I do. Right?
All right.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring up that today, Caverns of Mars Recharged by Atari was released for all the different platforms: Switch, Steam, Xbox, PS4, 5, all that stuff. And do you guys remember what Caverns of Mars is? Because I didn't.
No.
So it turns out that it's an Atari 800 game, or for the Atari series of computers that came out that supported those games. And I had to look it up. But I decided to download it because it's $9 or $10. And it's actually quite fun. It's an arcade style shooter, but you don't shoot right to left. You sort of fall downwards. So anyway, check it out. Caverns of Mars Recharged. I will say that it is a very close match to a game that exists already called Downwell, which is a sort of 8-bit Game Boy style graphic game that uses almost the exact game mechanics. I'm actually kind of wondering if Atari's going to get sued by them, because they're basically copying them. So
Yeah. I mean, how many other games do you fall down a hole? I don't really.
Well, I'm telling you, they are very similar. But
I did play Downwell today. It was pretty entertaining.
It is fun. And so if you like that, I say go ahead and buy Caverns of Mars because you'll really enjoy it. And there are a number of other features that are in Caverns of Mars that are not in Downwell. And there's a multiplayer mode, so you can actually have multiple ships falling at the same time. So maybe it's changed enough that if a judge were to look at it, they'd be like, "Oh, it's not the same." But it seems really similar to me. Anyhow. Both of them are fantastic games, and I think Downwell's only a few bucks. So if you haven't tried it, check it out. Yeah, and I already talked about a bunch of other stuff. So maybe I should look at least one of these other articles, huh, Mark? Since you went through the trouble.
Well, Brian may have mentioned the 2 articles, but it's all good. It's okay. It happens. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. So, yeah, he did.
I didn't know about Pulp Fiction. That's okay.
There is a Godfather.
Those are products.
Yeah, it's also news. Okay.
Well, right,
Brian.
You know. Well, so we can say, did you watch the trailer for the?
You know, it'd be great, Brian,
Godfather?
is if you read the show notes before the show. You know what, what was going on.
I didn't read the segment that wasn't mine. I was on a mission to get a microphone as instructed by our fearless leader.
Right, and it is very good. You sound great.
You do. It's the best you've sounded in weeks.
Or years.
Yep.
Yeah, probably years. Actually, it sounds really good. I don't know what. Yeah.
The auto mute functions.
Did he mention The Godfather?
He did, yes.
Okay.
But I mean, there's more detail in these stories.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about it. Just check it out. Go Google Godfather.
Google it.
Jersey
Godfather
Jack.
Pinball. There was barely any news about it.
Yeah, we got stuff to do, man. We got
watch the trailer. It looks really cool.
And I've been jabbering more than I usually do. So let's do Mark's segment next. I think that'll be good. Right?
Back in '82, I used to be able to throw a pigskin a quarter mile.
Back to the Cade with Time Runner.
Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Good evening, time travelers, and welcome to Back to the Cade. Our first segment is where I talk about Back to the Future news. And so, in the news, the original Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure scribes Ed Solomon and Chris Matheson are almost extensions of their characters. Have you guys seen the second Bill and Ted Bogus Journey?
I've seen first 2, yeah.
So the bad guy in the second movie his name is Nomolos. Do you remember that?
I do not.
Well, that is actually Ed Solomon's last name pronounced backwards.
Oh, so, yeah, that makes sense. Right?
So next time you see it, think of that. Anyway, yeah, but back to my little thing. They wrote all 3 movies. They've been close friends for 40 years. But the original draft of the film had it being more of a buddy movie with 2 level rockers who are definitely not stoners.
Right.
Okay.
So wait, so they are stoners. Wait a minute.
No, they're just they're metalheads.
But okay, so they're definitely not stoners. But
no.
So in the original, they were stoners.
Well, in the original, the first screenplay, they actually had a time machine that was very different until Back to the Future forced them to come up with a new idea.
Oh, because it was a car? Was it a car?
It was a van. The movie was actually called Bill and Ted's Time Van.
Oh, I kind of vaguely remember this.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same ring to it, right?
No, actually, yeah, they're lucky that they had to pivot.
Exactly. So that was scrapped in favor of the phone booth, and as we know, that was, kind of an homage to Doctor Who and the TARDIS time ship.
Yeah.
Right.
Was it an homage, or did they just figure that out on their own?
They had heard of Doctor Who, apparently.
Well, Doctor Who's been around since 1963, so it doesn't.
But back in the 80s, remember how bad it was? It was like filmed with a video camera, not film.
Well, actually, okay, so
like
I'm a huge Doctor Who nerd. It was filmed on video for
videotape, yes,
for interior shots, And for exterior shots, they use 16 millimeter film.
Interesting.
All the way up till the 80s. And then pretty much everything was shot, until Dr. McCoy, or Dr. Sylvester McCoy. They always use 16 millimeter film outside.
Interesting.
Which if you go back and watch Doctor Who, it's really interesting because all the interior shots are like super crisp at 30 frames per second.
Right.
And then you're also, when you're outside, you're on 16 millimeter film, which is not 35 millimeters. So it's got a lot more green. Anyway, check it out. I'm a huge Doctor Who.
I'm going to make a season of Doctor Who that was filmed with a video camera and change it to 24 frames per second.
You should totally do it.
Make it look like film, and then I'll watch it. I'm going to write a batch file.
I mean,
hey, what? I got this question I have to ask you.
What's in the juke?
Welcome to the Season 7 edition of What's in the Juke. It's the game within a game within a podcast. Today, we feature super short, isolated audio tracks from the Yacht Rock era. If you can guess the title of the song, you will get...
half point.
That's right. Guess the name of the group, and you will also
point.
get... If you can guess both...
full point.
Amazing. If you don't know either, please find it out amongst yourselves. Brian will be your master of ceremonies. Let us begin. There we go.
Okay, here comes your first track.
I know that I must do what's right. Sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti.
We're gonna get a flag for that one. 100%.
No, we'll be fine.
100%. That is too much of the song.
Oh, Brian got a point. What the hell?
By the way, I want to say that we have a lot of new chatters in the chat tonight. So if you don't know this part of the show, this is the part where we give points away. There's no prizes, but you get accolades. Right?
We have a ton of new chatters tonight.
We do. Nude. You say nude chatters?
Nude.
I love nude.
No, that's just me. Bottom downs only, though.
Oops.
Top, all clothed.
I love
Bottoms,
nude chatters.
no promises.
The more nude chatters, the better. Okay, here comes your next
your
track.
dongle.
Wait a minute. Who got that?
That was Proc.
Half point.
He got both of them?
Metropolis is my cam on. He got both, yeah.
Full point.
Nice work. Okay.
I mean, if I'm giving him credit, you know he got it.
Poor Brian. All he wants to do is have friends.
What?
Hey, we have another track. Here you go.
We're gonna have a party. Yeah.
This isn't really a Yacht Rock song. Well, I'll give it to you.
We're gonna have a party.
Yeah. That's good.
It seems to fall under at least 3 different Yacht Rock compilations.
Metropolis all night long.
No, it was. We're gonna give that to Andy. Andy was above him, and Proc
check
gets
that out.
another damn half point. Damn it.
Nice half point for both those fellas.
Half point.
Here comes your next track.
In the blink of an eye, I knew her number and her name.
Wow, that is amazing. Because that's not just what's his head. That's some background singers. Check this out.
I'm pretty sure.
It's overdubbed.
In the blink of an eye, I knew her number and her name.
This could be him doubled over.
Andy, half point.
I don't know. This might not be him. You might have gotten like a cover.
What? No.
Yeah, I might bet money on that.
Billy 7.
After the show, send me the full track that you used.
Okay.
Andy with a half point, and Proc with a half point again. Jeez.
I really want to play the original version of that song. Okay. All right.
Half point.
For a couple guys there, right?
Half point for Proc and Andy, and Mr. Peabody. If you don't step up, Brian.
Falling off the truck, Mr.
Not
Peabody.
okay. It's not okay.
No.
I expect more.
Okay, here we go. Here comes your next track.
If they say why?
Oh my God. I love that. This cannot be. That's not Yacht Rock.
It's in the list.
Really?
Yes.
These are all like 80s Yacht Rock. Yacht Rock's mostly 70s.
I did hit some of those.
Proc gets a full point.
I would not call this Yacht Rock. Yeah. All right. I would call that Pontoon Rock. All right.
Is Proc on the Skype call?
Half point.
I don't know. He's got a half point for that, though.
He got a full point. He got both.
Okay. Man, who's running the board tonight? Okay, here comes your next track.
I go crazy wondering what there is to really see.
Okay, so that really is amazing to me. That guy's voice is flippin' amazing.
Yep. I want to see him in concert every day.
Metropolis. Half point for Hall
Half
& Oates.
point.
Nice.
Half point.
And Mr. Peabody, Kiss on My List.
All right, on the board.
So I gotta
Guys on the
say,
board.
I did see them in concert, Mark, a couple years ago. Tears for Fears opened for them, and actually Tears for Fears was better. But Hall & Oates, like Hall, he just loves. Daryl goes off on these riffs, and it's like, just play the damn song, you know.
Oh, he barely talked at mine.
Oh, it wasn't talking. He sang the same song, "Kisses on My List." It's like a 3 minute and 30 second song, and it was like 18 minutes by the time he was done with it.
Oh,
and I was like, okay, just sing the frickin' song.
He milked it.
No, it was awful. It was awful. I was like, did you forget the words? And so you're just making it up as you go?
Billy Seven says, speaking of, just play the damn song.
So there's a little ban button here.
I know I've accidentally hit it once.
I just banned Billy Seven from the show.
No.
All the time.
That's a great song. That is
All the time.
How long do you think it took them to get those harmonies together?
Mr. Peabody, Doobie Brothers.
I would love to go back in time.
Half point.
That is close, Big Brad, but not close. Mr. Peabody gets a full point for listening to the
Full
music.
point.
Okay, guys.
Good.
All right, so far we've had Africa by Toto. We've had All Night Long by Lionel Richie. We've had Caribbean Queen by Billy Ocean. Human Nature by Michael Jackson. And Kisses on My List by Hall & Oates, followed by Listen to the Music by the Doobie Brothers. So where's the scores at, Brian?
The score right now is Proc in the lead, unfortunately, with 3 points. Mr. Peabody in second place with 1.5. Go get him. Mr. Peabody even stepping it up. Andy in third place with 1 point. Metropolis bringing up the rear right behind everybody who's not doing anything with a half.
Okay, here comes your next track.
Nothing can stand in our way.
Oh my God. Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Yeah.
She's so good. That is
so cute.
Nothing can stand in our way.
When I was 10, I
Proc
was
gets it with
madly
magic, and all right, I'll give it to Proc. Full point for Proc.
So close, Metropolis.
Full point.
Oh, but
Half
look.
point.
Okay, here comes the next track.
They see your every move.
Man, they are good.
They are good.
Half point.
Call Crack Girl. Andy with half point for Private Eyes. Metropolis, negative half point for Private Parts.
Half point.
He's talking to Mr. Peabody with the Hando.
Oh, man.
Half point to Mr. Peabody and half point to Andy for
Half
Private
point.
Eyes by Hall & Oates.
Nice. Private Eyes. Our next track is...
Meet you all the way.
Oh, these are brilliant. I mean, the vocalists on these are amazing.
Yep.
I mean, it's
and I let
crazy.
the echo go as long as I could on that one.
Brian with a half point.
Half point.
Full point to Proc for
Full point.
Rosanna Toto.
Rosanna, Dodana, Fafana. Okay, where are we at? Because we have one left.
We have one left. The last one was worth 15 points.
Done.
We have Proc in first place with 5, Andy in second place with 1.5. Or sorry, third place 1.5. Mr. Peabody in second place with 2. Metropolis still in third. Billy 7 is on the board with a participation medal.
Well, you know, it's nothing like participating. Okay, here comes your last track.
I heard her talking with a friend when she thought nobody else was around.
Oh, I know this song. Yeah, not Sailing. Sorry. Not Rick Springfield.
Not Weird Al.
Not Weird Al. Somebody's Baby is correct.
Oh, but you have to split 7.5. Oh, but it doesn't matter now.
You know,
half point.
We're going to give a full point to Mr. Peabody because
Full
it's not
point.
got to be. It's Somebody's Baby, which he got more correct.
Half point. Full point.
How many times do I have to press full point to get all the points?
Full point.
At the end of the game, we have somebody in first place, he who shall not be named. Second place goes to Mr. Peabody. Third place goes to Andy. And last place goes to Metropolis with Billy 7 bringing up the tail end with a participation medal.
I call... Nice. I call RAM Controls he who shall not be named, but whatever.
RAM Controls? Is he in the chat?
That's a reasonable... That's a reasonable statement.
I'd like to welcome Ben Blake to the show. Alice Idra. Oh, I like that name. That's a good one. AOK, welcome to the chat. 2102 Cooper, welcome to the chat. 01 Ella, welcome back. Catan Joe, Kata. Mike Page is still in the chat. Mr. Peabody's still in the chat. Metropolis Proc. And, oh, I like this one too. Santa Rampage. These are good names. They're hard to say, but I like them. And Drapsnat. I like that one too.
Wow.
Yeah. Katana Joe and Ice Cold Joe should get into it. There should be a fight.
Do we have a voicemail tonight?
Oh, I'm sure we do. We always have at least one. Let me check the real voicemail.
Wait, they're all real.
Don't
ruin it.
Talking about that. That's weird.
That's such a weird thing.
Wait, what I meant to say was, let me check the voicemail. I don't know why I said real. Sometimes I throw real, let me have some real Oreos. Sometimes I say that.
Let me be on a real podcast.
What are you talking about, Joe? Wait. Okay. Okay. There is actually a voicemail on here from, it looks like 5:48 p.m. tonight. Like a real, there's a voicemail besides our regular caller.
Okay. In addition.
Bring it.
Thank you for calling 612-548-GAME. This is Arcade Radio. Please leave your message after the tone.
Hey all, this is your roving reporter, Billy 7. He's on the road right now. He's driving to the St. Louis, what is it? Louisville Arcade Exponential or something, I don't know. But I got a trailer full of ice cold beer behind me. And had a little bit of a wardrobe malfunction with the trailer fender. And right now I'm going through the wind farms of Indiana trying to skip over.
He just
Here's
cut out.
the trailer in the car, so I can't talk long. This may never even see the light of day anyway, but I see, I was called out in a post and I punched on it, and Lemony somebody or other's on the show tonight. So I'm going to try to tune in while I'm on the road. If this does make it, I hope you all have a great time. And watch out for roving reports from the Louisville Exponential Arcade or something. Anyway, gotta go. Bye.
Wow, that was
Our games
Billy
are never
7.
getting there.
I do have to say, if you do want to text or leave a voicemail, you can. It's 612-548-GAME. That's 4263. You can text us, or you can sext us.
What?
I mean, you could just text us.
Don't.
But yeah, you go ahead, leave a message or text or whatever. It's good stuff. We like listening to those. Oh, and now we have to see if there's another one in there.
In the same real place that we always find them.
in the same real place that we always look for our voicemails, which is in the voicemail.
Thank you for calling 612-548-GAME. This is Arcade Radio. Please leave your message after the tone.
Hey everybody, it's your buddy, Bob Zarzadek, control panel expert and technician. Hey, this is going to be a short phone call, okay? But I wanted to warn you guys, your guest, he's not really your long-lost grandpa, okay? Haven't you ever heard of the books of the Lemony Snickets? It's like a whole series, The guy's like a master criminal. I think I actually ran into him one time back when I was a control panel repairman for the Baudelaire family. Yeah, I used to call them the Bold Eclair family, but, they corrected me like 20 times. And then I finally got it. So that's, yeah. So, hey, you make sure you keep, your eyes on old Count Olaf for me, all right? Yeah, I got to run. I'm sorry this phone call's so short, but next week I'll make it up to you with a secret visitor, all right? No peeking at my next phone call if it shows up early, all right? All right, have a great show. Zarzadek out.
Oh, you gotta love his stuff. Oh, and I think we're just about ready to run into some... Hey, welcome to the show, Mr. Lemony Vengeance.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. It's perfect timing, by the way.
Thank you. I caught the last half of that message there.
Yeah, we'll send you the full voicemail later.
Okay.
Real voicemail.
We had two voicemails. We had a good warm-up with the chatters tonight. Lots of good news about console stuff. So if you missed the first half of the show, which you might have, go ahead and check it out later. Lemony.
Hey.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. A bit rushed, running around, trying to be everybody's hero, both abroad and locally here in the place that I live. But it's good to be here and sitting down and talking with you, fine gentlemen.
Is that your Fortress of Solitude?
No, actually, this is home base. Fortress of Solitude is elsewhere.
Oh.
I have a small outbuilding that has all of my arcade games in it that I retreat to when I need a moment to regroup and to collect my my resolve to continue what I do.
Excellent. So Brian, I want you to start this off and tell us how Lemony got on the show tonight.
Yeah, well, because I neglected my job to ask someone. No, just kidding. No. So Lemony is a guy who's been around the fighting game community for a long time and has been really amazing contributor of a lot of different insightful and kind of like off the beaten path products. He's like the guy that looks at stuff and says, well, I can figure out how to make this work. And he works for a company that will not be named, or worked with a company and has worked with a company that will not be named, but competes with Paradise, the company that I like. And he and I didn't get along very well.
Yeah.
And then it struck me, we kind of had some very great online fights, which were mostly silly. And I was driving through Utah one time and said, "Hey, I'm here. You live in this area somewhere in a mountain cave. Like we should have dinner." And he graciously accepted my invitation and suggested a place. We met up, and ever since then, it's just been a real privilege to get to know him, talk to him, learn from him, share with him. I mean, for those of you who don't know him, Lemony is a guy who gets in, says, "I want to make this arcade cabinet do this," and then he just does it. And then not only does he do it, he then shares that with everybody else. And he's not one of us greedy capitalistic guys that goes off and sells it for 80 times what we make it for. He actually, one, shows you how to do it, and two, sells the stuff for extremely reasonable, probably too reasonable pricing.
Sounds like me. You buy high, sell low, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, so that's Lemony. And so I've said a lot, but this, and I'd ask you to tell, so that's what I know about you from the time that I've known you.
All right, first thing I need to know, Lemony, is where did you eat?
Where did we eat? Oh, it was a little place that at that time was local called Cafe Rio. And they have since stretched across the nation. I think Burger King ended up buying the rights from a local company. And they're nationwide now.
Excellent.
It's kind of your you stand in a line and you tell the people behind the counter what you want in your burrito, and you get yelled at in Spanish. And
it's their version of Chipotle.
It was, very, very busy place. It's very popular here. And Brian was driving through. This was just after he moved from Hawaii.
Yep.
And was driving through the country after Evo.
Excellent.
The World Fighting Game Championship. And so while he was driving through the country, he called me up, or he didn't call me up. He sent me a message, and it was really odd, given the interactions that Brian and I had had in the past. And I thought, you know what?
All right, before we get into any other questions, because we're going to have Mark ask the question coming up here pretty soon. But
are we?
Oh yeah, you're going to ask the question.
Am I? Are you going to highlight it before I have to ask it?
It's just question number one. It's your question. You wrote the question. It's the
question.
Yes,
I have
the question I hate.
I have a list of questions that I ask.
Yes, it's the question I hate.
I don't know why.
Because it's terribly worded. Nobody uses the word youth unless they're Joe Pesci.
I say Ute as a Ute.
Well, you're talking to someone from Utah, so technically I am a Ute.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
He is a Ute. This is getting terrible. Now I'm off track. You've totally blown this. Totally. Okay, so we need to know what you were fighting about. What were you fighting about?
Oh my gosh. Any petty baloney you can think of, whether or not pictures had watermarks from this other company, or whether or not an idea was stolen from somebody else, or whether or not somebody had an idea first, or who has better customer service, a brand. It was all brand loyalty. And looking back on it over the course of the last decade, because it's been about a decade, right, Brian?
It's been about 13 years.
That's crazy.
Just about. And so I just look back on it and I was like, all of this was a missed opportunity to get to know people who know a lot of stuff, who've been through a lot of experiences, and to actually be part of a community.
Yeah.
I was more interested in the fighting game community, and this, for those of you who aren't familiar with the way the fighting game community works, it's a lot of braggadocio, and it's a lot of machismo, and it's a lot of I can do this better than you. So I mean, it's kind of baked into the bread there, and people do say that sometimes the fighting game community can be a little toxic, and I am sorry to say that I added to that. I was, especially in the tech talk forum, I added to that. And
you know what? I gotta say, that's very humble of you to say. The fact that you guys and Brian, kudos to you to reaching out to your enemy and saying, let's have lunch. That's pretty cool. I'm glad you guys became friends because Lemony's on the show, and you guys all get to figure out and hear about this guy that's super fun at all these conventions and is like an arcade hero. So, Mark, with no further ado, let's start with your question.
As a Ute, what were the circumstances when you first became hooked on arcade games?
So I had this is kind of a funny story. Very sentimental to me, of course, and it's sentimental to everybody that's in the arcade world because of nostalgia, and nostalgia being the driving force of what we do. But when I was young, and I just happened to wear this shirt today. It's Killer Instinct shirt. Killer Instinct came out in the arcade, and I thought to myself, man, this is really cool. This is such a great game. I didn't have a lot of money growing up, so I didn't get to play it in the arcades very much. But when the Super Nintendo version came out, I was absolutely hooked. And I spent months and months and months just learning how to do different combos and how to make it infinite combo and do things. And I would play with my younger brother. And that summer, the summer of 1999, I probably played more Killer Instinct with him than anything. And he ended up passing away that summer from a head injury. So I take that experience that I had with Killer Instinct playing this arcade fighter, and it became, one of those, what do they call it in Inside Out? A critical memory or a core memory for me. So, I took that and, kind of recovering from the heartache of loss and whatnot, moved away from arcade stuff and started doing console things. Flash forward to about 2010. And I decided, look, I'm a big fan of the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast has great parity with the arcade releases that were on the Naomi. Why don't I just put a Dreamcast in an arcade cabinet? That would be fun. So, I doing a lot of research and whatnot. I got hooked up with an importer who was local to me and ended up buying a Sega Blast City. Now, I had no idea how to use a multimeter. I had no experience with soldering or any tools to do like wiring or whatever. But I knew that as soon as I picked this up, it was me. That's it. This is mine. And I can't just like take it down the street to get repaired. So like I really had to teach myself how to solder wires, basic circuits, what it meant to not only have it work, but also look good. That was very important to me. And I think 3 months after I bought my first arcade cabinet, I made my first controller adapter, and that was an adapter to allow a Dreamcast to play inside the arcade cabinet. And I showed it off on the Neo Geo forum that I was a part of, that I had first, dipped my toes into the arcade world. And if any of you had ever been to the Neo Geo forum, that is one of the worst places on the internet.
Worse than Clav? I don't.
Oh yeah, it's
it is awful. And I say that with an immense love, not just for that forum, but for the people that have been on that forum for 20 plus years and are still there.
I got booted 10 years ago and was like, because I didn't say enough.
Yeah, that's the thing. You've got to be pretty active on that forum in order to continue. That said, I have not been active on the Neo Geo forum for about 5 years.
You might be
booted. I haven't been booted yet. I'm sure I will be after this. I don't know. But I love those guys. Semicolon. They're a bunch of assholes.
That's the slogan of this show.
Hey, all right. So I showed off my work to those guys, and I had made my adapter with some birthday money that I had gotten from my parents, $100, and they said, "Hey, if we pay you, can you make the same thing for us?" And that was it. That was the end of the beginning for me. And since that moment, I have made and figured out and worked out tutorials and different methods to get what you want to play in your arcade cabinet possible. So we're talking like 8-bit NES and up. Anything that outputs RGB video or has a VGA adapter for it and up. Or say, hey, you want to completely power a Sega Genesis or a TurboGrafx 16 using the JAMMA connector in your arcade cabinet, I can do that. And I've put out tutorials teaching people how to do this on their own. And Brian, you aren't the only person to tell me this. Of course, my wife and all of my friends tell me that I don't charge nearly enough for what I do. But my goal is twofold. Number one, for this hobby for me to be sustainable and self-sustainable. And two, to help people play the games that they want to play and enjoy the way they want to enjoy.
That's pretty cool.
That's been my guiding star. Those two things have been my guiding star. And I'm happy to say that just within, I'd say, the last 6 months or so, the self-sustainability has been achieved.
That's nice.
It took that long for me to be able to get to a point where the stuff that I make is supporting my hobby 100%.
That's cool. I still don't have that figured out. I just want to say Billy7 in the chat just said, I love this guy. I agree. It's kind of that's a great opening answer. That's off question number 1.
Oh, there you go.
I mean,
we only have 18 more parts.
Right. Yeah, and
I'm in it to win it.
Good, because we had Nolan Bushnell on, and let me tell you about that show.
What do you know about that show?
Not a lot.
Adam took a little siesta during the. Somebody was very excited and decided to calm down a little bit, maybe a little too much.
I celebrated on an empty stomach. It was a bad night.
Oh boy!
But I did get to interview him for at least half the show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you did wake up at the end, so I don't know how that.
That was miraculous.
It was with Mark and I going, so how do we end the show if he doesn't wake up?
Anyhow, you have a connection at an old Bushnell. Why don't you tell us?
Yeah, Nolan Bushnell is a fellow Utahn. He grew up and worked at a local theme park, Lagoon. Family-owned theme park then, still family-owned now. And while working in the arcade, he thought that it would be great if he were to get a popular computer game available as an arcade cabinet. And those of you who are fans of the arcade world and know that history. I'm not going to go over that history lesson. So he decided to go to the University of Utah and get his degree there. And I mean, that's all he wrote. I mean, he is the godfather and a personal hero for more than one reason of mine. So the fact that you were able to interview the great Nolan Bushnell, to me, like, raises your clout meter like way up here.
Well,
you know, him and Eugene Jarvis are two of my biggest heroes.
We've had Jarvis on the show twice.
Yeah,
and
he's actually, the quote that's.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead, Brian.
He's the quote of our intro.
Yeah, at the very end of our intro, I have a clip of him when he, I was first talking to him on the phone about the show, and it was maybe the second time. He goes, "Is anybody ever going to listen to this anyway?" And so now it's a permanent part of season 7 intro. At the end of the end of the intro. That's the clip we use because it's funny as hell. And that guy has one of the worst vocabulary of adjectives. It's a very limited vocabulary of adjectives that he uses, but we enjoy it. So anyhow,
your first cabinet was a Blast City.
Yes.
That you shoehorned a Dreamcast into.
I've had shoehorned just about every console you can think of into that.
I got to ask you about the Dreamcast because I'm a huge fan of the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Sega's last console.
Yeah.
Its predecessor was the Saturn.
Yes.
Also a beautiful console. But the Dreamcast was really the penultimate, or it was the ultimate of theirs, right? It was the culmination of all the technologies that could have, that they just screwed up. They didn't put copy protection on their games.
Yeah.
I mean,
to me, originally when I was first getting into console gaming, I had a good friend of mine named Mike Casey. He, was one of those guys in the neighborhood, older gentleman, had every single console. Dude, this really one does this. This one does this. Have you ever heard of the Amiga? Oh my gosh, this Commodore 64 is amazing. And I'm like, what? But he was talking to me about the Dreamcast. He was like, yeah, and dumping groups have figured out how to get past the GD-ROM stuff. There's no security on the drive itself, so they've put in bootloaders and you can play it off of burned CDs. And I was like, I'm sold.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely sold.
Crazy Taxi, baby.
Oh, dude, Crazy Taxi. I have that in a upright Naomi cabinet. That's one of my favorite games.
It's
I love
great
that game.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Royal Rumble?
I don't like wrestling games so much. Sega kind of went all in with the weird in the United States when it came to Dreamcast releases.
Sure.
I look at games like 18-wheeler, which is like, who wants to drive big rigs in an arcade, let alone at home? Crazy Taxi was kind of a no-brainer for them, and a fantastic launch title in the United States for the Dreamcast.
I gotta say, the Dreamcast is the first system that I enjoyed playing sports games on. The 2K series.
I will admit that. I think that's the only console that I have ever enjoyed playing sports games on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sega's 2K line of sports titles were fantastic. Back before you had to get licensing agreements.
That was back when the Vikings were good.
Yeah. But it's as far as Royal Rumble is concerned, that was released on Naomi as well. It was a 4-player game, and the arcade cabinet looks like a Nintendo Versus cabinet. And
yeah, I have one. It takes up some space.
But there were there were some great titles. I mean, you can't go wrong with Bomberman, Bust a Move for
Bust a Move is my all-time favorite arcade game.
Yeah,
I
love it.
I've got a story about that. Actually,
and then you've got,
if you don't mind me sharing.
Sure, let's come back to it. So we have Capcom versus SNK.
Yeah.
You have actually Capcom. There was a couple of games, and there was Choo Choo Rocket.
Yep.
Which was later ported to iOS. It was one of the first iPad games because it was multi-touch. I don't know if you know that or not, but it was kind of cool that they ported it to the iPad.
Oh yeah.
But Crazy Taxi 2. There are actually a couple of good gun games for the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
What's interesting about Crazy Taxi 2 is it actually was put into the arcade version, not on the Naomi.
Sure.
It was put on the Xbox analog, and the name's escaping me right now.
That would be the Chihiro.
Yes.
And that's Crazy Taxi High Roller that you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also, and I mentioned this on the show last week or maybe the week before, but Daytona USA is like my ultimate favorite like arcade racing game, and I think because it was Sega did the right thing. Like when they came out with those big cars and the widescreens and the technology, they were pushing the technology at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they were all linked for the first time. It was like at the Mall of America, you could go and play Daytona USA, and you all had your own cars. And the first thing, like two people, we went on a work trip, and first thing, two guys that had been there before turned their cars around, ran backwards into the race, and started running people off the road. And it was the first time it was like, okay, that's freaking awesome. Like it is a total game changer. You talk about game changer. I hate that phrase. Game changer is such a freaking overused phrase. I hate it. But back then, not only was Daytona a game changer, but the fact that you could turn around and change the game by running people off the road was pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to
Bust a Move story.
Bust a Move, because that is a fantastic series. I love Taito. They do such a great job with that game, and I have it on, PlayStation, the original PS1, Dream. I mean, tell me about your experience with that.
I've always been a big fan of Bust a Move. I remember my family had a computer built for us by my friend Mike that I had mentioned previously, and on it he added in an emulator with all of the Neo Geo ROMs. And so, just being a bored kid going through and playing Neo Geo games, I happened upon Bust a Move, and I was like, man, this puzzle game is really fun. And I don't think there's been a time where I haven't played Bust a Move to like blow off steam or just to sit down. A lot of people say that sitting there and playing Street Fighter 2 or something, another fighter, is the way that they blow off steam. I love playing puzzle games in the arcade. Bust a Move is the champion above all. And I've had the opportunity of playing multiplayer, versus with some of the best Bust a Move players out there. And, I've given them a run for their money. I'm no high score hero and I'm no, super champ at Bust a Move, but I can hold my own. Flash forward, I was on a date with, I think it was a second date with this lady, and she was very competitive. And so she was like, "Oh, you've got a bunch of arcades in your basement, huh? What's your favorite game?" And I was like, "Bust a Move." And she was like, "Oh yeah, okay. Next time we go out, I'm gonna wipe the floor with you." And I was like,
"What?"
Okay. Domestic abuse is a crime in the United States.
Yeah.
And everywhere, and it's wrong. However, she was so thoroughly beaten that evening that I should have been locked up because of the beating that she got.
Oh, no.
And I say this jokingly, and domestic violence is not a joke. Not a joke. I will say that 100%. However, she was sitting there trying to like line up combos and everything, and I was like looking at my cell phone with one hand, moving the stick around and throwing the bubbles up just like this, like not even worrying about it. And yeah, she learned that day.
Wow.
So
hey, how do you feel about that Bust a Move Frenzy arcade that Raw Thrills made? Did you ever get to play that? It's like this giant.
As much as I like Eugene Jarvis, and I like his legacy, Raw Thrills is just a company that really doesn't excite me so much with their offerings. I mean, it's like cool to see the world's biggest Pac-Man or the world's biggest Galaga in an arcade, or seeing the new cruising cabinets that are out there. But I see that, and I think to myself, there is so much that you can do that's low energy to cash in on nostalgia. And there is other things that you can do with nostalgia to make people excited about stuff again. And I don't know, Raw Thrills just really doesn't excite me too much. They've got the Enter the Gungeon that they just released recently within the last couple of months, and that's exciting to me because I have friends that worked on that game. However, their releases themselves, I feel like it's Dave and Buster fodder. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It is, and it's definitely there. It's funny because when you go to the trade shows, they have kind of some of the biggest and loudest booths, but it's, and the stuff is flashy, but it's not. It is a lot of. Most of their stuff has a theme that's licensed that people are paying attention to, or it's an old thing people are cashing in on. It's not like innovative new play.
Okay, so I'm going to give you guys that. That's fine. I also think that Raw Thrills, if it weren't for Raw Thrills, there's a lot of kids that wouldn't be playing arcade games today.
That's true.
Yes,
so,
and I will admit that if it weren't for Raw Thrills, there would be a complete drought in arcade amusement from the United States.
Now, I want to bring up something because recently I bought Cruisin' Blast for the Switch. Cruisin' is, of course, Eugene Jarvis's baby, Cruisin' USA. And I thought, okay, Cruisin' Blast, whatever, Switch. Okay, it's on the Switch. This is a few months ago. And I bought it, and it is arcade fun. It is as fun as Cruisin' USA was to me, sitting in the actual game in the 90s, as it is sitting in my living room with my, my fancy electronic reclining chair and my little game controller. But you know what I mean? Like, it's really, really, really fun, and it has the total arcade goodness rate of the racing game, right? There's no rules. You bounce off the walls. You go over cars. Things explode. There, you have to find the routes. It's like Rush 2084. All those games. Very, very arcadey. And I love Paradise, Burnout Paradise, and the Burnout series, and all those.
Yeah,
they're a much different arcade style game. It was almost more like real racing, right? And if you want to get real racing, you go GT. But still. Yeah. But the whole point is, if you're a racing guy, if you're a driver, Mario Kart, whatever, Cruisin' is a freaking fun game. And if you haven't tried it on the Switch or whatever it's available on right now, you need to check it out. Raw Thrills is not dead. Eugene Jarvis is not dead. Check out their shit, So,
I will. That, I avoided and resisted getting a Switch for the longest time.
Well,
the longest time.
Now that I got the OLED a year ago, and it's like my most played console, which is stupid. I have a Xbox Series X, or I have a PS4. I bought a PS5 and then I returned it because there's going to be a Pro coming out at the end of the season. I don't I don't know, but like my Xbox Series X, I don't hardly play it, and the Switch, I can take it anywhere. It's the coolest console.
What is your go-to game or console right now, Lemony?
Final Fantasy Theatrhythm Final Bar line just came out. I have a Final Fantasy Theatrhythm cabinet that I've imported from Japan. That I'm developing some hardware for, so it allows you to play the Switch version of Final Bar line inside the cabinet itself with the lights and everything.
That is so cool.
I can't even help myself. I can't sit down and enjoy a game that I bought because I always think to myself, okay, what do the people want? Why do they love this game? Right. Is there a new version coming out? And sure enough, there is. So I've been playing Final Bar line, which if you haven't played the previous versions of Theatrhythm, there's one that's available arcade, and there's another one that's available on the DS. And it's basically a rhythm game based on music from Final Fantasy. You tap at specific spots and you flip the analog sticks different directions, both of them and whatnot. And it's a great game. And they've got these little like chibi Final Fantasy characters walking along, and depending on the damage that you do or how accurate you are in the game, they do a specific amount of damage, and they take damage if you miss combos. It's a really cool little fun time waster. If you're a Final Fantasy nerd, you probably know about it and love it because of the music. Once again, like I said, cashing in on nostalgia.
Yeah,
Square,
but I mean that's a new format though. You know, I mean it's not.
It's not your typical like poppin' where you're hitting buttons and you know, Groove Coaster where you're wiggling boosters or Dance Dance or whatever. You know, it's kind of it's a new take on a classic genre that I think is pretty neat.
Billy7 says so it's like the rhythm version of Puzzle Fighter.
Yes. Very, very similar. But it's got like 4 bars that move across. You have to hit buttons at specific points in time. I would liken it to Quick Time Events meets Dance Dance Revolution.
Okay.
So that's pretty funny.
There's a demo available on Switch and PS4/PS5. So if you guys want to download it and give it a shot, see what it's all about, I invite you to. It's a great game.
Cool.
What's the? You talked about you doing some mods, a lot of mods.
Mm-hmm.
What's the one that you're like the most proud of? What's the one that you're like, pulled this off? Hell yeah! Drop mic, leave room.
So there's a term in the arcade world called consolizing. Mm-hmm. It's where you take an arcade board and you consolize it so it works on television. I call what I do jammifying. So I jammified a TurboGrafx 16, and I had no idea if it would ever work, like if it would be even possible. So I had an individual reach out to me, and he was like, "Hey, can you do this for me?" And I was like, "Well, dude, I don't know. This is kind of a difficult console. If I screw up, then, you know, it's going to be tough to find a new one for you." And he was like, "I've got 3 of them. Go ahead and try it out." And so, you know, I get everything together, and there's a certain procedure and tools and whatnot and circuitry that I use with like my JAMMA Super Nintendos and my JAMMA Genesis that I've made in the past, and it's very similar to the JAMMA Xbox 360 adapters that I would make. So I just took all of that, incorporated it not only so that it worked with the TurboGrafx 16, but all of the components, controller hacks, video processing, audio, amplifier, everything fit inside the shell of the TurboGrafx 16. And I pulled my cell phone out, I connected it to my Blast City and turned it on and recorded the entire process. And the first words out of my mouth were, "Holy shit, it worked." you know, like I had no idea, and I was recording it and put it up on social media, but it's like, holy shit, this actually worked. Nice. You know?
That's awesome.
So that's definitely my drop the mic situation. I've gotten a lot of more sophisticated. Rather than running wires, I'm actually starting to design circuit boards for the stuff that I do. And, you know, a lot of people are like, why would you want to put a console inside an arcade cabinet? Like, what gives? Like, why would you do that? And you'd be surprised at how many people, how big the demand is to put video game consoles, both old and new, inside arcade cabinets, especially with, you know, Street Fighter 6 is coming out this summer. I've had a lot of people ask me for adapters so that they can play Street Fighter 6 in their high definition cabinets. And I'd say that's probably my hottest seller right now, is just the wiring harness pass through to make it so that Brook UFB boards work in a, you know, a Velix or a Noir cabinet or whatever.
Like, so, you know, it's interesting you say old cabinets are new, because I have seen a couple of cool, like Atari 2600 conversion cabinets.
Yep.
One of the, you know, Activision has a number of really awesome games that came over the 2600,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a Cabaret. Do you guys remember the Cabaret version of Kaboom.
Yep.
So there was a cabaret cabinet that was sort of Atari style that somebody put a Kaboom in, and it
was a terrible job.
Is that Brian? Is it Proc?
It was Brian.
Yeah. So he's actually one of our chatters tonight. So yeah, but it's a freaking fantastic cabinet, right? I would love to have that thing in my collection. And actually, you're of an era. Lemony, you're probably a decade younger than Mark and I. So my guess is, like, when you were going to the arcades, the interesting thing about Dreamcast, and you already said this, is Naomi and Dreamcast, same hardware basically.
Yeah.
And actually, literally PlayStation hardware was in games for games like Toshinden.
Yep.
So and Ridge Racer. Was that an arcade game too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure
So
was, yep.
So like they're literally the same freaking hardware. If you look at the PCBs, there's not much difference. There's probably a few things, edge connectors, whatever, but it's basically PlayStation hardware.
Yes.
That's
right.
It's really interesting because and tell me if this is true, but like, did the fact that you found out that Naomi hardware was similar to Dreamcast, did that influence you?
It was comforting to me to know that I could have the arcade experience at home without having to shell out $700 for like a Neo Geo AES.
Right.
And, $200 for each individual game, And now I look back on those prices and I weep because those games are like, dude, it's Neo Geo AES. We're talking like, meeting in an airport lobby,
right,
exchanging $40,000 for a prototype game.
Well, and
which
prices.
By the way,
up.
that's a full story. It's not mine to tell, but you guys should probably look that up. Yeah. I'm good friends with all of the people involved in that, and it is one of those like retro gaming rabbit holes that you can fall down very easily. That stuff happened right when I was starting in the arcade scene on Neo Geo. It's a fantastic story, and it will leave you with more questions than answers. Well, so if you've never heard about that, please check it out.
And pricing, and I mean, we can all agree across any tier of the collecting hobby that pricing has gone off the scale in the last few years.
Yeah.
So and it's interesting because like you're talking about like making consoles into arcade games that were already sort of arcade games, but like But like Atari 2600 games, they were not freaking ever arcade game. Well, I mean, they were terrible ports of arcade games in some cases, and then in
you leave Pac-Man alone.
I actually like Pac-Man. I think it's a great game. We had Todd Fry on the show.
I like that port of Pac-Man.
We had Todd Fry on the show, and he's a gentleman and a scholar. He's an unbelievable human being, but he fully admits he did not have time to do what he wanted to do.
Oh yeah.
Same as Howard Scott Warshaw. Howard Scott Warshaw.
Oh dang, yeah.
We had him on the show. He's talking about E.T. and all that. But my point is, you turn a game like Kaboom into an arcade. It was never an arcade game. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Atari, on the other hand, was like they were always trying to port arcade games into this tiny little like crappy video game system that people had in their houses since 1977. So,
and it with what I do, it kind of takes it full circle. You're trying to take the console version and move it back into an arcade cabinet, and it
right.
I think there's a certain charm in that.
Yeah.
You'll look online and you'll see the memes of people who, built their own arcade cabinet with, and basically it just looks like wood glue slapped everywhere and a Nintendo controller glued to the top of a control panel or something like that. I think there is a lot of love and enthusiasm in builds like that. They're ugly as sin, but I can see the enthusiasm in there, and I'm encouraged by it. So if I can take that enthusiasm and help people by presenting it in a way that is eye-catching or sleek or clean, then, hopefully the world is made a little bit better in the retro gaming world for that.
I love that. I love that. I mean, it's all about enabling people to play games, right? One of the coolest things I thought I've read recently is, I can't remember who said it, but games should be fun to play.
Insightful.
They should, they shouldn't be difficult.
Billy Mitchell. Wait, no.
And actually, this is an interesting. It actually is an interesting study from, the time in 1985 all the way up to today. Because when I got a Nintendo in 1988ish, I played Super Mario Brothers. I wanted my dad to play with me. God, I look like my dad right now, which is really eerie. So anyhow, I had my dad play Super Mario Brothers. He can't play it. He has no idea how to work this D-pad and 2 buttons. He's like, this is too complicated. Like Atari with a single button might have been too complicated for my dad. But you introduce a D-pad and 2 buttons, that's crazy talk right there.
Oh man. His brain would probably melt with this.
For sure. And I remember watching my dad. He would put the controller down on a counter, and then he would use his hands from the top down, and he'd press the button. And it just
like he was at the typewriter. Because that's muscle memory. That's how he knows how to do stuff.
It was terrible. And I remember, Dad, you don't know how to play video games. It's just like, I don't. and now I have a similar problem with over complexity of games and whatnot. But at least we've, our generation grew up with everything. We adapt, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool that, you're doing all these crazy adaptations with not just, arcade cabinets, but, consoles. So my question for you is the Dreamcast your favorite console, or do you have a favorite console?
I am nothing to me will ever touch what the Dreamcast is. The Dreamcast to me was the end. Its release marked the end of the retro era and the beginning of what I consider the modern era of games. I don't consider the Dreamcast retro because of its technical capabilities, the games that were released on it, and the features that it had.
And it can run Linux.
What's that?
And it can run Linux.
Well, it doesn't just run Linux. It also runs Windows.
That's true.
It runs Windows CE. It has the same version of Windows that was on the Palm Pilot.
Wince. We call that Wince.
Yeah, Wince. I've never heard it called Wince. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I'm a Microsoft subject matter expert. I've been in the IT industry for 20 plus years. I have Microsoft technical certifications and whatnot. Never heard it called Wince.
Cheers.
That's a good name for it. It was definitely wince-inducing, that's for sure.
The last time I saw Wince, go ahead.
The fact that it ran Windows and they had that partnership with Microsoft.
Yep.
Let Microsoft put their foot in the door of the gaming industry. Without Sega, without the Dreamcast, the Xbox would not exist.
That's
Period.
probably true. That's probably true.
And Sega was very instrumental in the development of the original Xbox. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to see that an Xbox controller and a Dreamcast controller are very, very similar.
Yeah.
Sega ported games and released sequels to their games on the Xbox, Jet Set Radio Future, Shenmue 2, just to name a few.
Yeah.
Their post Naomi arcade release, the Chihiro, was based on the Xbox architecture. So if you guys hate Microsoft in the gaming industry, you can blame Sega because they created a monster.
Well, I mean, Midtown Madness.
Oh, fantastic game.
I love that game.
Fantastic game.
You know, Microsoft they made some great peripherals for a while too.
Oh yeah, their hardware department was and is completely unmatched.
Yeah.
I will take a Microsoft keyboard and mouse over any Logitech or whatever you throw at me any day of the week because
Sure.
I know, number one, it's going to be comfortable to use.
Yeah.
And two, it's going to work. You just plug it in, it works. I don't have to worry about like setting up software or doing custom button maps or anything. And this is me, you know, with a SteelSeries keyboard, you know, LED monstrosity here. But I love Microsoft peripherals. The Xbox controller, all of the Xbox controllers have been the sturdiest pieces of hardware that I have ever held in my hand.
Also the most comfortable.
Yes, absolutely, the most comfortable.
The ergonomics of having the offset joysticks. I think GameCube probably did it first.
Yep.
But the point is that Xbox perfected it. PlayStation all the way up. You know, it's a great controller. Don't get me wrong, I like it. And I love the feel of it. I've never had a problem with the PlayStation controllers, especially since DualShock was introduced. Right?
Yeah.
So, but it's very cool that, and I was always skeptical of the Xbox controller, and then I got one for my Steam setup, you know, my PC, and I love it, and I will never go back. But like everybody copies it now, even Nintendo, you know.
Yeah. The Pro Controller, when they announced the Pro Controller for the Switch when it was first released, I saw that and I was like, that's an Xbox controller with the button swapped.
Luna for Fire Stick, same thing. Also, not a very good controller. It's super like, if you've held a Luna controller, and do I have one here? Anyway, here's I've had the same Xbox controller forever. Here's my Luna controller. Same offset, you know.
Yep.
And the thing about it is it's not as comfortable. It's got seams that are sharp.
Yeah.
It's kind of junk compared to Microsoft's controllers.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%.
But
the Duke controller, the original controller for launch Xbox, is the one that was like this big.
Yeah.
I feel like Microsoft learned their lesson really quick with that controller.
Sure.
Because the Xbox S controller is what they called it, the second revision, corrected everything.
Yeah.
And then it's, you know, tiny tweaks with the Xbox 360 and then the Xbox One and now the Xbox Series controllers. They're, you know, small tweaks getting better.
A cool thing. So like for years, like you could buy knockoff kits to mod your Xbox controllers. And the cool thing is now they have Microsoft Labs. You can build your own controller.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've done it twice. It's a guilty pleasure, right? Because you could buy an aftermarket kit and do it yourself, but it's now you have somebody in like China in a sweatshop.
Yeah,
making your
low
controller
quality parts,
right? But
easily
you get
mass produced and no quality control.
You get all the awesome Microsoft parts, and now my Microsoft controller matches my car in Rocket League, which is super important.
Yeah.
I will say I'll give a little plug right now for another company that does some custom controllers. But that's Controller Chaos.
Oh,
and the guys down there do some really neat custom painted ones.
Oh yeah,
they
were at Level Up. I remember seeing their stuff.
We helped them out with some stuff at Evo one year, and they made my son a Minecraft Piggy controller for the PlayStation 4. With bacon painted around the hand grips.
Whoa.
Chatters should tell us what controller they like best as well, because there's some chat going on about controllers right now. But you compare what we had with the Atari 2600 in 1977 to what we have today, and I think there's a certain symmetry, and we sort of hit the pinnacle with what Microsoft has designed. And I don't think there's much more buttons you can add to a controller without it making it too more, so over complex that you can't play a game.
You say that, and Sony says, "Hold my beer," and they come out with a controller that, I don't know, wipes your rear end after you go to the bathroom or something. I don't know. Sony is, I think.
I have to say,
I'm not a Sony fan.
That touchpad on the Sony controllers is pretty freaking cool.
No, it is. It's fantastic. Yeah. I think it's incredible. I have not owned a Sony console since I got a launch PlayStation 3.
Okay.
And that statement should probably tell you why I have not owned a Sony console since the launch PlayStation 3.
It's the only console in history that has taken away features every 6 months.
Yeah. And lowered the price every 6 months too.
Well,
and paying $600 for a console only to have a $150 price reduction 6 months later because they weren't selling.
Right.
That really hurt, and they didn't have any worthwhile games, I would say, until the first Uncharted came out.
Oh, and
I used mine almost exclusively as a Blu-ray player.
Yep, that's exactly why I bought it.
I love Uncharted so much.
Oh, Uncharted's a fantastic game. That it's like being able to play a male Lara Croft.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of a dig at the genre of what it is. It's a platformer / adventure / problem solving game.
So much better than Lara Croft, though.
No, it is, and I'll admit that.
And then they just bring in their own Lara Croft with Claudia Black.
Yes, they do. And the voice acting was absolutely superb. The game was very well put together, had a great direction, great graphics and everything. And it really set the stage for Naughty Dog to produce The Last of Us, which is absolutely exploding right now.
By the way, my PlayStation 4 Pro is a Last of Us edition.
Oh, fantastic.
What?
Mm-hmm. But and I gotta say, I loved Last of Us on the PlayStation 3. I love Last of Us on PlayStation 4. But Uncharted was the first game to have these cinematics.
Oh yeah.
With the camera panning out and zooming, the character being zoomed way out, and then you're like, you feel like you're playing a movie.
Yeah.
For the very first time.
That was the biggest draw of that game. Is it's like a movie, guys. You got to play it. And I was working at GameStop at that time.
Yeah.
When it came out, and I had sold my PlayStation 3 and said good riddance long before that. However, that game, The Last of Us, and the more recent God of War games, and Horizon Zero Dawn that just came out. Those are games that make me kind of hungry to play something on the PlayStation.
Yeah, I actually bought that game for the PS5 before I returned it. But yeah, I think they'd be really fun. They'd be really fun. Here's the thing. I have too many hobbies. the PlayStation Switch, PlayStation Switch, Xbox. Why do I have all these? I can't possibly play them all at the same time.
ColecoVision.
ColecoVision. Atari.
He's sending me his ColecoVisions. He's trying to get out of it.
Yeah,
like you're lowering the number of distractions.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even want to go. I want to have a dissertation about how many consoles they have. But okay, so first of all, my hobby should be focused on classic arcades and pinball because that's where my heart is with the stuff, But for you, Lemony,
yes,
where are you at now? Because I know you got some classic blood in you. I know you got this console crossover shit going on. So let's talk about like what are you focusing your hobby on right now? Like just you. What do you want to do?
Well, the arcade stuff, specifically Japanese import arcades, it's very niche, and that's what I'm focusing on right now. I have been collecting Japanese what are called candy cabinets for the last decade or so, and I thought to myself, it would look really weird to have like a Donkey Kong cabinet next to my Blast City.
Yeah,
but it doesn't look weird having like a sit-down Neo Geo or a Taito Egret 2 or whatever from Japan next to my Blast City. So I've tried to keep with the motif of Japanese arcade gaming as much as possible. So that's really where my passion is. And, a lot of people ask me, why do you focus on that when you can get like a dedicated upright cabinet? Well, have you ever tried to move a dedicated upright cabinet? Whereas candy cabinets are made out of sheet metal and
plastic,
fiberglass.
Yeah,
and they have wheels on the bottom of them, and it's really easy to lean them back and push. It's really easy to move them around. I can pull a monitor out by myself if I need to lay it on its back to pull the monitor out. I can do that. I can rotate monitors. I can put whatever game I want in that cabinet. So there's a lot of variety. It opens up the playability and the library of games that I can have, rather than just saying, well, this is a Gunsmoke, this is a Frogger, this is, whatever. I can still play those games, but I can play them in different cabinets.
So I have a question for you. Like, candy cabs are sort of generic, right?
Oh, no.
Feature set, yes. They are. They do the same basic thing. They have, but they don't low
have
res or a multi-res monitor in it.
Sure, but they don't have most of them don't have individual side art.
Oh, they all do. They all have very, very different styles of art. The control panel itself usually has an overlay that has
the control
art that's specific for that.
Yeah, the control panel is one thing, right? The marquee, right? But the side art, there's no side art on a candy cab, right?
Oh yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have you taken up smoking?
I'm googling candy cab side art.
If you are talking about say the side art for a Burger Time versus the side art for a candy cabinet,
right?
I can see where that dichotomy exists, where you say, oh well, this kind of looks very plain. And it's true, you'll get like a racing stripe that says Astro City.
Yeah.
Or like a
I'm not knocking it. I'm just asking because
Blast
I don't
City
know.
Or something.
I'm literally not knocking it. I just don't know. That's why I'm asking. Because because when you buy when we have to get side art for a classic game, it's a pain in the ass. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to go find the right vendor.
It's a full thing. It's 6.5 feet tall. You have to sit it down. You have to cut the backing off halfway, and then very carefully and precariously put it on.
Right.
Yeah. In that respect, the side art for a generic candy cabinet is not comparable to what you would put on a Mortal Kombat cabinet or Satan's Hollow cabinet or whatever.
And I love there's Brian. He just all of a sudden showed up like the Godfather. It's
I gave up on the computer. Something went wrong with the network. I
I was gonna tell you, Lemony, my next mod that I want to do to a candy cabinet, I think you'll appreciate, is I'm working on hand winding a yoke, and I'm gonna try and do a 29-inch vector.
Oh my gosh, dude!
What?
I love vector games so much. Like, so much so, I bought a PlayStation TV and hacked a PlayStation 3 controller just so that I could play TXK on one of my high definition cabinets. I love vector games so much.
Favorite vector game now? What is it?
Classic. It's Tempest, man.
All right.
Jeff Minter found his niche very early on and kept through it. Space Giraffe was fantastic on the Xbox 360. He developed the music visualizer for the Xbox 360 with Microsoft, and he's been doing the same stuff over and over and over, but it's been absolutely amazing ever since. He put out Polybius a couple of years ago, which was a fantastic game. He has a new game that just released, or that he's working on. I'm not sure if it's released yet. I forget the name, but I've seen screenshots, and it's, if you are a fan of vector games by Jeff Minter, you're going to absolutely love this game. It takes new elements, it takes old elements, and mashes it together, and it's fantastic.
Okay. So
Nice.
Jeff Minter did Tempest 2000, 4000, right?
Yes, he also did that.
He had nothing to do with the original Tempest.
I don't think he did.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Just so you know.
But Tempest 2K was a fantastic game too.
Yeah, for the Jaguar, and then ported to the PS1. It's a fantastic game. But Tempest, the original, was by Dave Turer.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave Turer, his inspiration for that was Nightmares. So,
really?
Yeah. So look that up, because we tried to have him on the show, but he's the only Atari guest that actually wrote me back and said, I don't want to do your show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fuck that guy.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding. He's a gentleman. He just doesn't do podcasts. Although he freaking did an interview with Tony Temple. Okay, so fine.
You want us to pretend we have an accent or something next time, or what?
Yeah, Tony Temple also happens to be like Missile Command world champion. So details. But he and he's also an author, and he's actually very well spoken and British. So whatever. Dave did an interview with him. Fine.
Completely not a fan.
I'm not jealous. Nope. I'm not jealous. Anyway. Dave Turer, look him up.
Okay.
So, Brian, what are you doing there with your Halo?
Well, I'm trying to find a spot there. I can sit there. Is that better? Is that a better background?
Are you trying to find a candy cab to show us?
No, I was coming over to the other side of the shop because the internet connection down over to my side over the last couple of weeks has just been terrible. So I just decided to come over here, do the phone, so I could actually keep participating.
Okay.
I was going to do the rest of the show while exercising here. Maybe that would help.
You need to turn off your blur.
Nice.
Turn off the blur.
But
you've got a background blur.
I can just my phone off to figure it out. Here we go. Let's go. There we go.
Yep.
All right. Anyways.
So okay, we're gonna wrap up here soon, but Mark, do you have any final questions for our guest?
What are your 5 favorite classic games that you have in that backyard or wherever it is?
The secret location,
yes.
I affectionately call Candyland.
Nice.
Because it's candy centric. Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Nice.
Cool. Absolutely classic. The fighting game community out there is probably like, yeah, there's a meme that goes on, it's like, when's Marvel, but it's a fantastic game, and I don't think it gets much more perfect than Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Fantastic. I've been playing Groove Coaster a lot, and I never used to be a rhythm gamer, I used to think that rhythm gaming was dumb, and Groove Coaster.
That's not a classic game. Let's go back to the question.
Oh, you want to go classic?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, isn't Groove Coaster like 90s or something, or 2000s?
No. Groove Coaster is like late 2000s.
Oh,
so.
is it late 2000s?
Yeah.
I want to know. Actually, your question was good. We can talk about your top 5 games ever, but let's.
Okay.
What do you got? Classics going.
All right, let's go classics. Classics here.
Yes.
We talked about one, Bust a Move.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Street Fighter 2. And when I say Street Fighter 2, I'm talking about hyper fighting. So, it was released in the United States on Super Nintendo as Turbo Edition. That, bar none, that is, the cornerstone of home arcade gaming. Everybody knows Street Fighter. Everybody knows Street Fighter 2. Super Street Fighter 2, you can take that and stick it to the side. But like Street Fighter 2 hyper fighting, that was like, you got to get into gaming. Final Fight.
Oh yeah.
Was the very first arcade game I ever played in my entire life. What? one of my daughters, my lemon drops, as I call them. Oh. So Final Fight, I remember hitting the 7-Eleven next to my elementary school at 5 years old, waiting for the bell to ring, putting my quarter up and waiting to play as a 5-year-old next to all of these like 6th graders and stuff. It was fantastic. Sure. TMNT. Oh. So Turtles 89, classic Konami fighter, and by extension, any of the 4-player Konami fighters that were released at that period of time, very influential to me. I would say Area 51 for light gun games.
That is a fantastic game.
Yeah. The ability to not just play through, they had distractions that would take your life away, and they had secrets that you could shoot to access secret levels. Fantastic. It wasn't just a linear on-rails shooter.
Yeah.
It was a linear on-rails shooter that branched off on rails, but still branched off, and that was fantastic to me. So I think I said 5 there. So
Yep.
That's great. And you mentioned the rhythm game, so let's talk about modern games. Top 5 modern games.
Top 5 modern games. Okay. I would say anything released by Cave.
Okay.
From the late 90s on. Cave is a shooting game company from Japan. Unfortunately, a lot of their games are out of range price-wise for me. To hit the entry level for Cave, you're going to be spending over $1,000 just for the PCB itself.
Sure.
Ooh. And you'd be lucky if it came with the original box or any of the artwork or anything. Those games.
I think it's funny. Mark says, "Ooh," but if you just look at I don't know, Brian, how many games can you think of off the top of your head that are $1,000 at least? Journey, Star Wars can be up to $1,000. I mean,
PCBs?
Yeah, PCBs.
Yeah, PCBs alone.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Major Havoc.
Yeah.
Even some of the stuff Tempests aren't going there yet. They're not far off though.
Yeah.
It has gotten crazy. Street Fighter Third Strikes that I used to buy for
I was just about to say Third Strike. Yeah, you get a Third Strike setup. That's $1,100 right there.
But the point is that without that, you're not going to have a game.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
people know what they have.
So any of the Cave games that were released that are still being released, regardless of platform, the Exa Arcadia is a new platform that is trying to be a modern day Neo Geo MVS. So they have cartridges that you push into like a stock PC is what it is. But the games themselves are $2,000 to $3,000. The motherboard itself is about $2,000. So it's Brian is showing a Third Strike setup right there. I actually just got a Third Strike setup. I did some trade work for a friend of mine, and he was like, "Dude, I need to pay you. How much do I owe you?" And I was like, "Oh, just slide a Third Strike setup to me." And he was like, "Okay." And like 3 days later, I had Third Strike sitting on my.
Oh my gosh,
that's crazy.
And like I'm not interested in like money when it comes to helping friends out. If we can like trade things together, I'll make you this, you give me this. I'm cool with that. I love doing that. Absolutely love doing that. But Papa's got to eat. You know?
Yep.
All right. So
that said, people in the chat, please don't come to me saying, "Hey, I'll trade you this if you do this." Like I still got to buy parts, man. But okay, so Third Strike I think is a fantastic, what I would consider modern fighter. The newer Street Fighter series in general is just fantastic. The Cave games are great. Groove Coaster is something that I've been getting into a lot lately as far as rhythm games. Rhythm gaming is very intimidating to people who A, have no rhythm, or B, see the complexities of like playing Beatmania 2DX, you know, where you're like operating a turntable and the buttons at the same time and things are just flying down the screen, and that's intimidating to me.
Yeah,
Groove Coaster is very approachable. Very approachable.
Let's talk in 10 years.
Okay. What, in 10 years? Trust me, I'm already. I can tell that my reaction time is slipping.
It's a much different thing. Also, I hate loud games.
I will say, I am gonna say we got a Groove Coaster up at Starcade. I bought one.
Mm-hmm.
It actually is embarrassingly fun to play.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I don't disagree. Games like that are fun to play. I just
and I there was always a line, like my nieces and nephews and my friends, when they come to play games, there's always a line for Groove Coaster. Yeah. So I bought another one. I have 2 Groove Coasters.
Wow.
I still have a line. So what am I going to do? You know what I mean?
3 Groove Coasters.
Okay.
Oh man,
Lemony, I can't do that. 3. I want to say thank you for being on the show. And here's the thing. We're gonna do an outro.
Okay.
And then don't leave. Don't hang up, because we wanna talk to you after the show. There's a little, a
wind down.
There's a wind down after the show that we don't want to just like ditch you. But I want to say thanks for being on the show. It's been an honor to have you on the show. And I would love to have you on again, because there's so much more to talk about. Because you have
I've got stories.
You have a wide breadth of in the hobby, and I love consoles. I love classics. It's great. It's great. So thank you so much for being on this show. Thanks for answering all of our crazy questions, and hang with us until after the intro, because it's, we'll give you a proper send off. And chatters, thanks for sticking all the new chatters tonight. Thank you for being in the chat. You guys are a fantastic group of people, and we love to have you along for the ride. So thank you so much for sticking through. You guys are the best. I can't, the regulars that show up for our regular shenanigans, you guys are the bomb. Please, if you're new to the show and you just found out about this thing, check us out, because this is our last season, as I keep saying. But Brian and Mark keep telling me that's not true.
It's like Kiss's last tour, right? I mean, it's gonna happen.
No, but seriously, we appreciate everybody that shows up to listen to the show, and what a great guest tonight. I mean, we had some. I mean, Brian, thanks for having a problem with Lemony.
Yeah,
I mean, seriously. Well. And Lemony, thanks for making up at a diner.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for Brian extending that invitation to me. It was great talking with you. Susan, on the other hand, I could tell her doubts at that time. I pass by that location monthly, and I always think about that one dinner that we had. And it's, I talked about core memories previously. That's a core memory for me.
That's awesome.
Where a foe invited me to break bread to talk about the world in general.
I love
that. And it was a fantastic olive branch.
One thing about Brian is, if you ever, I don't know anybody that I've had a similar situation with Brian. Brian and I don't always see eye to eye, but I think Brian is has a special talent to like reach out to the people that, exactly as you said, you may not see eye to eye, right? So we're friends because we communicate, and that's hard in today's society. So Brian, thank you for being a friend to me, and thank you for being a friend to Lemony. So okay, let's do this outro thing, and then Lemony, hang on with us. We're gonna do a little thing afterwards. Show. All right.
And you guys got the 2-man outro because I don't have a screen.
I removed you, so follow the red column, Adam.
All right. So thanks for listening on the double R's. That's the Arcade Radio.
Check out our website, arcaderadio.com. That's RCADE radio.com for all of our social media swag links.
Or you could call and leave a text message or a voicemail, just like Bobby Zarzadek at 612-548-GAME.
Hey, are you enjoying this show? Check out our Patreon at patreon.com/arcade radio. Multiple tiers available.
That's right. Or subscribe to our Twitch channel.
Yeah.
Right? And hit the whatever bell, or just follow us. You don't have to subscribe. Just follow. And you'll know when we're on Twitch.
And if you have a moment, please visit iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, or wherever you consume our podcasts and drop a 5-star review.
Yeah, and that's going to be it for tonight's show from Arcade Radio. We hope you had a blast, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And actually, we got to figure this out. We might be on next week because I am not going to be here 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, me neither.
All
right, perfect. Let's shift.
We'll do next week. Next week. Oh my God, this would be great.
We did it.
I think we're one of the best audiences in the world, don't you, Mark?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
They did a good job of audiencing.
They're so good at audiencing. Are your pants
Except
on
for
right now?
Proc, yeah. No, I don't take them off anymore at the end of the show.
You don't?
I wait. I've stood up. You never know what could happen.
Mine have been off the whole show.
Oh, great. That's why Adam covers his camera.
Who put this together? The music on the show is so good. I mean,
some bored guy with GarageBand.
I mean, this is probably one of the best ones he's ever done, right?
Possibly. How could anybody even? Yeah. How could anybody
Chat
even know
GPT
that?
wrote this song. Who do you think actually sticks through the whole thing?
Metropolis. Hello?